in one of the interaction convinced that while they want to figure out what they want to do next in life, why don't they come and become CEO of Plagiar? Right? Now what that would mean that I will definitely have to step aside. I'll have to do something else. Right? And so suppose I become head of product at Plagiar, right? This head of Google is now head of the CEO of Plagiar. Is that going to enhance the value of the asset Plagiar, or is it going to reduce the value? Definitely it's going to enhance the value. My guess is that I have at least 10 to 20 times multiple of my valuation of the company instantly. So the question is that why shouldn't I plan to do it? Because at the end of the day, if the asset valuation is increasing, right, it benefits everyone. Of course, there are caveats with that I don't want to give it just for a valuation perspective and lose long-term objectives, etc., etc. But at the end of the day, the objective of forming a company is to create a valuable asset, which you might have initiated. But with every decision that you take going forward, you have to see it whether it's adding value or not adding value. If your stepping aside is adding value, right, by continuing, you're actually damaging the shareholder value. So why should you do that? Right? So that clarity helps a lot in taking decisions at a decision-making step. Then you start viewing conflicting point of views. Then you start listening to wise people that you hired with so much pain. Then you also listen to them. You give them room. You give them space. Right? So I think that helped a lot. Clarity of perspective. I'm talking to this in relation to keeping people. Right? Hiring is an easy thing. I mean, it's like a storyteller, right? You do a casting in a movie. You can cast a superstar in a movie, right? Because you told a great story one fine evening. You should be able to last that person in the project, and that's a difficult part. So if the clarity is not there, the person will join you, and within first 2 weeks you will end up suffocating the person. And will move on. So for keeping clarity is important. That what role you play, what is the company. How are other people related to the company? Right? It's a very simple aspect, but it's just about seeing it that way. Right? It runs in families as well. I mean, so if you see in your personal spaces, right, when you associate with anyone in the family, right, when you get married, I mean, you have equal partner in the family, right, and the person has his own life. There is one relationship that you have with the person, but there are so many other relationships with the person which has with someone else, your friend, your other people in your family, etc. It's about clarity, right?
Yeah. Also, I just wanted to come back to the question about starting off startups. Generally, you want to communicate all the calls. Your client want to talk to you, and we talk about put that in the next person agreement. Now, it becomes very difficult on two counts. One is to find people with that kind of passion, talking to the person who's passionate about work. Secondly, most of the clients want to talk to you directly rather than somebody else. How do you find it?
So, I will say part of it is about how you structure the business. Right? If you are sure that you don't want to be hands-on, you can very well structure a business model of business in a manner where you won't have to. That's my firm belief. Unfortunately, in Plagiar, I wasn't sure that I wanted to completely hands-off. So I wanted to stay hands-on also because my first 6 months, my initial customers were also in some way my product development partners. Of course, they didn't know about it, but they were my product development partners. So I used to listen to them very carefully. I used to listen what they're liking, what they're not liking. I was also testing price points. So I wanted to really figure out where is the resistance. Is the resistance because of value, or is it that they don't see the problem that they are solving big enough to actually pose a resistance? And then I used to work around the product again, come back to them, check if resistance is gone. So it was a close watch. And it was a very technical play from my side for first 6 months to get the platform right. So I wanted to be hands-on. But nevertheless, I never wanted to be hands-on in operations for long. Because I have a continued product development role in Plagiar. So the first thing we did, actually when we got our first client, the first person we hired was the head of operations. Actually, we could have done without her because I had only one customer. All I needed to hire was the one delivery manager who would have come at a very fraction of the cost. and we could have booted that customer, right? But we didn't do it that way. Our business plan had role for head of operation who will manage a large portfolio. So once we got confirmation from a customer, first person to come in was head of operation, and then within 3 days we got our first manager also on board, right? We lost our first head of operations after a year in business because we were growing very fast, and we felt that we needed somebody of a different caliber to handle national footprint. So we got a replacement again, more in a national role. But we did not run the business without a head of operations. Right? And that was the first step with which I stepped out. Right? Also, when I went to customers to meet, I was very clear with them that I am not involved in operations. Right? So I am available to everyone as a point of escalation. So there are times when customers may write to me saying that maybe if you can participate in this particular meeting or a review, etc. And from my side, whichever city I travel, I do call them up and tell them I'm coming so I can catch up with you, your team. We do that. So I'm at a strategic level in touch with them. With some of them, we are thinking and incubating some new projects and even businesses. But that's the entrepreneur side of Prashant Bhaskar. It's not the CEO of Plug HR which is incubating businesses with them. Right. So it gets very different.
In a startup, you keeping a very close watch on cost. Right. So if you add on people, that also is mind.
Right. So so a lot of costs of your business have to be thought through. See, when you set out to do a business, right, you got to know what those costs are going to be, and you got to budget them in, and you got to provision for them. There are innovative ways of provisioning for costs. They can be, so you can cut on one or cut on another. But if you have thought in the plan of a head of operations or a senior role, right, and you have decided that that's the money you're going to put into the business, after that, not hiring the person in right time is actually damaging the project, right? Then, so whatever you need to do in terms of saying can you afford it or not needs to be done before you take a decision to move in. Right? Or you take a little longer, take more time, involve other people, raise funds, whatever you need to do. Bootstrap, ours is a perfect example of bootstrap. Even today we bootstrap. Right? So we still live a life of a startup. We are a startup, right? So it reflects in everything, right? From where we stay. I have a list of not just my friends and family, but even my head of operations friends and families in every city. And so she also has a list of my friends and family in every city. Those are the places we used to stay when we travel, right? So it's when you want to go to a new city, you call up and say, okay, who's got anybody there? And that's where you want to stay. So these costs you got to budget. You can go hands off, and you have to make people habitual to it. Right? I don't take any calls unless it's from my team. Or from people, when customer related I take, but I will again tell them, let me ask head of operations to come back to you, because I can't even play. So and I tell them I can't play a role because I am not in the picture. I have no idea where the whole thing is. It will take me longer to solve. It will be faster, getting solved. So that's also what I applied the same in family also. So I will keep telling you how it works in both the spaces. When I used to work in my professional life, parents used to be anxious about how the kid is, has he eaten on time, etc., etc. So they will keep calling 5-6 times a day. And when you're working in a corporate environment, you're meeting other things. You can't keep taking 5-6 calls every day from family. And no matter how much you tell them, they have their own reasons and affection not to agree. So the best thing was not to take calls. So I will not take calls till 6 o'clock. It took me 2 weeks after that call stopped coming, and everyone is set, right? So it's about forcing that decision. Yeah.
I have a question.
Sure.
When you say startup means someone people don't know about. Obviously, it's not a famous company. People don't even know about if it even exists. At the other hand, you said that hiring someone who can actually represent your company at that time. Is it realistically even possible to actually find such people at such stage? Okay, I have the money, I can give them comparing with the competitors, I personally have the experience. But again, how hard or easy it is to actually convince a person at that stage that yes, you come to the company, serve us, we give you the money where you want. But I think a lot of people actually take this point into the consideration that if the brand, they know the brand, they will go for it. If they don't, no matter what kind of money they pay you or anything, they will not join. So what is your